Hi everyone, so today I'm going to talk about 5 signs that you are not an ISTJ. People have this idea from, I think, larger than Myers-Briggs, that the ISTJ is a duty-fulfilling type. That is for others to set what is required of them, and the ISTJ to very compliantly fulfill whatever their duty is. And I think that is a big misconception. The ISTJ is the one that, if anything, sets out what the duties are to be and makes sure that those duties are then followed. They are a type that creates certainty, that sets out the structure. And in doing so, they're not passive. Quite the opposite. They are quite active and inclined to enforce what has been set out as being the area of certainty. They are the creators of certainty, the most certainty-oriented, I think, of all the types in the socion. Sign number 1. You avoid hard rules and think only in shades of grey. Well, that's very much not true for the ISTJ. They do not think in shades of grey. They do not think that the truth just depends on the situation. An ISTJ, due to their valuing of introverted logic and introverted intuition, and really pushing those two things, they create an approach towards truth that is absolutist. They want to establish the absolute truth. They want that truth to be so strong, so unshakable, that nothing can bring it into doubt. And they are very deliberate in setting that out very carefully, with every degree of meticulousness to make sure it is the absolute truth. So they want the hard rules. They want the certainty. They're the ones who create that certainty, who establish the hard rules, and rather than thinking in terms of shades of grey, they will show you where it really is black and white, and they will enforce that black and white onto the situation. Sign number 2. You are messy and lack an eye for detail. The ISTJ has introverted sensing as their demonstrative function. That's not valued for its own sake, but it's very strong. It's very supportive of what the ISTJ tends to do. And yes, I talked about their focus on structures, on creating certainty, of establishing that truth, of really laying down what the law is. But equally, they are meticulous. They are detail aware. They are able to manage the day-to-day stuff in line with the rigour that is demanded of the standards that they lay down. And they are very painstaking to make sure there's no deviation from whatever structure they've laid down. So that requires a great eye for detail, a great awareness of the minutiae in their lives. Typically, the ISTJ is, out of the various beta types, which tend to be very dramatic and quite very sort of impactful, but also a bit sort of all over the place and almost like unruly teenagers. The ISTJ gives the greatest impression of maturity in terms of managing their day-to-day stuff, keeping that together, making sure that's in balance. And again, it's not because they need everything to be in a particular place, they feel easily offset if things aren't, but because in establishing their certainty, they need that sense that things need to be kept in line with the standards which they've set out. So yeah, they will keep their space well looked after. They will look after themselves and keep themselves in relatively good condition, as part, which again builds up that resilience in terms of their circumstances to any challenges to the structures which they lay down in terms of what is true or what's not. So yeah, they tend to be very meticulous, very good eye for detail, which makes them very reliable. And when they say, when an ISTJ is someone who, when they say they'll do something, they do it. And in that sort of quite black and white way, is the introverted sensing, which keeps them reliable in their ability to maintain the day-to-day stuff, which enables them to actually then deliver on what they said they're going to do. So yeah, they are not messy. They do not lack that eye for detail. They are very stringent in their examination of the detail. It is why I think someone like Ludwig van Beethoven, I think is most likely an ISTJ, in his compositions, his ability to get the right note, even without the ability to hear, simply because he is really, really focused in his intensity on making sure this is right. It's incredible. ISTJs have that power of concentration on doing things without distraction, which I think is remarkable. Or I think of another, Ludwig Wittgenstein, that very clear focus on establishing his Tractatus, which again, nothing slips by. There is no gap in any particular point. Everything is so carefully built together and established, and that allows them to have that strong foundation of their logical reasoning. So that's the introverted sensation there. That's why they are not messy and they do not lack a life of detail. If you are that messy person who skips over the details very easily, you're not an ISTJ. Now for sign number 3. You are curious about people and seek out their unique perspectives. So the ISTJ is not a breadth of interests person. They are highly set on a particular area of focus. They are very exacting in making sure that area of focus is done correctly by the book in the way that they have set out that order. So when it comes to people and understanding totally different perspectives from the truth which they've been able to set out, they just don't have interest in that. They establish clarity. They establish certainty. The best way to uproot that certainty is to spend your time listening to someone else's totally different, a totally arbitrary perspective on things. Because then how can you reconcile that perspective with another perspective? It's all interpreted. It's all messy. It's all very subjective. Not areas which the ISTJ is comfortable with or really wants to have anything to do with. They are about establishing the certainty. You're not going to get certainty by consulting and speaking to unique perspectives. Typically, an ISTJ actually finds it very difficult to put themselves outside of their own experiences. They're grounded in the introverted sensing of their physical embodied experience, which makes them so meticulous and able to construct things so well. But the idea of placing themselves in someone else's shoes, of imagining outside of that's very difficult, quite stunted for an ISTJ. They can very much struggle to see things from the perspective they themselves haven't gone through and experienced, which means they can overestimate a situation. They can not look at the different possibilities. They can go down a particular line or path or plan thinking with absolute certainty this is the only way it's going to go. And then other perspectives, other ideas come in which sort of throws off the order, creates chaos. And yeah, the ISTJ gets their blinders on very easily because of that. So yeah, they're not good at hearing out unique perspectives. They're not good at showing that empathy with a totally different way of thinking. They can rub people's noses out of joint by being so certain, by coming across as so arrogant because they have established that structure and they're not considering and hearing the other perspectives. But yeah, that's why some types don't like them and other types actually like that and are attracted to that. But yeah, not curious about people. More, if they are to be attracted to understanding people, it is to set out the structure of what makes someone what they are. And again, that's the laying down of the structure. It's not the opening it up to hear all their different perspectives and keeping their mind open. The ISTJ is the ultimate closer of their understanding rather than an opener. You are charismatic and able to appeal to different kinds of people. So I said that the ISTJ is not very curious in other perspectives. They are also not very charismatic. They have, a certain kind of charisma in that they can be the strong, silent type. The sort of grim, quite firm character that people might like in a very sort of masculine, macho way. Sure, an ISTJ can do that. But what an ISTJ is geared towards is that logical certainty, to really think about how it all fits together and makes sense. What they aren't good at doing is engaging with the emotional undercurrent, how to shape how people feel about things. They'll just lay it out, almost like a jackhammer. This is how it structurally fits together and makes sense. There's no questioning. Why even debate it? That's it. I don't want to have this debate. The idea that they actually have to engage with emotions to persuade people and coax people into embracing this, they don't feel comfortable doing. They're not good at doing it. It's not that the ISTJ doesn't like that, because actually ISTJs are very much drawn to people with that magnetic energy. They like people who do have that charisma, especially when it's using that charisma to bring people around to their way of thinking. They enjoy the ability to persuade. They just do not have that ability themselves. They are a type which is comfortable where someone else has created that mood, created that dynamic, enable them to be able to engage with others through that shared mood, and they'll respond well to that. But they themselves are not the mood creator. They're not themselves the ones who get people feeling a certain way and following it. They are the rule bringer, but not the person who then gets people to voluntarily accept those rules. And that's also why an ISTJ can stray into the dictatorial side, because they don't have that charismatic ability just to bring people in of their own will, because their emotions have been changed in regards to it. This is why an ISTJ really needs an ENFJ to help them with that. The last one, sign number 5. You are irritated by people who are passionate and influence-seeking. ISTJs, in their pursuit of that absolute truth, in setting out what that is, in creating that certainty, what is the point of doing that if you can't then influence, if you can't then make the world, to some degree, conform to the truth which you've set out? The ISTJ wants that certainty to turn into impact. So, of course, they're going to be attracted to people who do have that ability to establish that influence. So, this is why I'd say an ISTJ is, although they can end up being a type that can sort of isolate themselves and go into the absoluteness and strictness of the truth because people aren't ready to understand it, they don't want to cast their pearls before swine, essentially. If they feel there is an opportunity to bring people around, to influence how they're feeling, to get them around it, they will embrace that. They will want that. They'll want someone who can help them do that. And so they are attracted to people who have that passion, who have that energy, who have that dynamism, that magnetism. They look for that in people. An ISTJ, in their very logic-oriented world, and their focus on structure, it can be sometimes quite uneventful, despite that sort of rigor in how they approach things and the absoluteness. The idea that someone can make them feel passions which they're unfamiliar with and make them feel that very intensely and strongly, that's something they respond very well to. An ISTJ is a type that is looking to be moved on an emotional level, even while they set what things are on a logical level. It's also why ISTJs are very receptive to flattery. I think of, for instance, King Louis the XIV, the Sun King. At his court in Versailles, he would establish all these very regimented ways of doing things each day. He would set down the rules very clearly. But what the key way of getting him to sort of be on your side and do almost what you want was to flatter him, to appeal to his sense of, his own sense of pride. And the ISTJ, because they're not very good at navigating that emotional landscape, and they value that emotional energy and that heightened emotive expression in other people, they are very receptive to that flattery. That could be a very good way of manipulating an ISTJ, is if you resort to something like flattery, if you show that kind of that admiration to them. They don't want it to be sort of too coddling and sort of sweet, positive. They are looking for admiration. They're looking for that sense of grandeur and that sense of, okay, these are special emotions. These are emotions which tell me that this is very important what we're doing. And they like that from someone. Someone can create that to make them feel that they are the most important person in the universe. Someone who, when speaks to them, makes them feel that way, which is exactly what an ENFJ is able to do. And so, yeah. ISTJs are, if you are irritated by people who do that, if you are someone who, if you get the sense someone's affecting your emotional state, and you don't, and you really try to avoid that, you're probably not an ISTJ, because that is the Achilles heel. That's the secret way to get to hack an ISTJ. So if you are very vigilant against that, and you're not manipulatable in terms of the emotions, and you're not attracted to that passion and that influence seeking, then you're probably not an ISTJ. You're probably could be an INTP in socionics, more likely. More likely to be a type which doesn't value extroverted ethics, and the ISTJ very much does value extroverted ethics, extroverted feeling. All right, thank you everyone.
Thanks for watching. Please ensure that you subscribe and click the bell so that you get notifications on all my other new content coming through to the World Socionic Society channel. If you would like to find out your type, please follow the link in the description below to book your own diagnostic interview. And if you'd like to understand more about your type and all the other types, please consider purchasing my course, the link to which is also available in the description below.